And now we move on to the second section, which will contain Corinth and around the bend to the Warrensburg section. But first I thought we'd look at a little history of the Corinth paper mills. The history of the pulp and paper industry in Corinth is essentially the history of international paper. For over a century, the Hudson River Mill at Palmer Falls was not just a local employer. It was the corporate headquarters and flagship facility of what became the largest paper company in the world. In 1869, the Hudson River Pulp and Paper Company began operations using groundwood pulp, the Adirondack spruce, to make commercial newsprint. This breakthrough dramatically lowered the cost of paper, fueling the explosion of the daily newspaper industry. Following World War II, the mill shifted away from newsprint, which was moving to larger mills in the South and Canada, to specialized products like coated paper, which is the glossy paper used in magazines. Now, in our limited space, we're going to scale things way down and use a lot of artistic license just to create our own little pulp mill in the town of Corinth. As always, we start with an open grid framework set up to support both Corinth and Warrensburg. You can see the stringer running down the center line is going to divide the two areas. And there's a lower section down on the lower left here because we're going to create a waterfall. It kind of hits the viewer right in the eye as they walk in the door to the room. Now we've progressed somewhat. I put the uprights down the center line that'll support the backdrop that we're going to paint to back up both sides, both scenes. And you can see the plywood used will support the rail. It's also got a grade. If you look at the back side, you'll see risers that bring the level of the track up a little bit higher because it has to cross over on the other side so that we can close the loop and head over towards North Creek. Here's a view on from the end of that section showing both sides of the divide. We're using a 2-inch extruded foam insulation here because we want to cut the river out, which goes by the pulp mill. And you can see the basic structure for the falls is laid out there too. On the Corinth side, we've got the rail laid out roughly where we're going to want it with the cork roadbed in place. The river's cut out. And I've placed in the paper mill, which is a BTS kit. They make really fine wood models that I used quite a few on this railroad. And at the far end, you can see the village taking shape. The track comes around from Saratoga, from behind that building. And in the front, it curves around, goes around the end of the table and into Warrensburg. This is a little different view from the other angle. Now that backdrop is a photo backdrop. You can buy these online and you paste them onto a backing cardboard or hardboard. You can get a variety of scenes. I put this up just as a placeholder. In the end, you'll see I painted my own version of a backdrop, which is, I'm no artist, but it got the job done. Here we're starting on the waterfall. The black area are just pieces of extruded insulation cut and chopped up a bit, and the plaster is laid over cardboard support and mixed up kind of like an oatmeal mix to give it a rocky texture. And we're going to paint that, and we'll use Mod Podge to create a sense of water here and some more rocks. We'll show some more of that. And here we see we're starting to build that mountain that we're going to use on the end of this table to separate the two scenes. Tunnel passes through from Corinth to Warrensburg. We're using the extruded insulation as base, kind of carving it into a rough shape before we cover it with plaster. And we've also put the hardboard divider up. As you can see, we got it clamped basically in place. It's not painted yet, so that's just a temporary installation, which gives us an idea of what things are going to look like. Here's another view, shows a little better the stringers that we've cut out of the insulation and shaped for the hill, the mountain. We've got the tunnel portals cut into there and set in, and the next phase will be to cover that with plaster. Then we cover those stringers with plaster cloth, which you can get from hobby stores, Hobby Link, online, whatnot. It's the same thing that they set your arm in for a broken bone or whatnot. It's a good material. It hardens up to give a firm base, and you can paint it. You can stick rocks on it and trees and whatnot to create quite a nice scene. And here's a look at the other side, coming around out of the Corinth area. The tunnel in place, the bridge over the river, and we're next going to move on to adding trees and rocks and some scenery to this. And now we've got that mountain covered with trees, which are easy enough to make, and some cast rock we stuck there for a little rock face. And up top we took an N-scale fire tower, try and give it a little perspective up top there. And I added some stuff up on top of there which you can't see from this angle, but little deer and woodland scene up on top of the mountain. Here's a little wider shot of that area, still not quite finished, still some stuff to cover with trees, waterfall, and we'll swing up top here. And this is up on top of the mountain with the fire tower. There are some deer in those clearings down in there. I don't know if you can pick them out, but it's just little details you can add. You can spend years adding details to these layouts. And for the waterfall, we placed a lot of little rocks and whatnot in there and poured in initially some resin, let that set up, and then mixed in some sealing caulk, the white stuff, as well as getting some of the clear caulk spread around to show a little more depth, some sand for the beaches on each side, and then just kind of wet down the surface of the insulation there with some paint and hodgepodge or Mod Podge, whatever it's called, just to give it a wet look. And up top we sprinkled the gravel and stone and then poured in the resin and colored it somewhat with caulk and whatnot, and colored the banks, put the trees, and you can put grass, which ultimately we had grass in there just to depict the river. A little longer shot, we've made quite a bit of progress in the area, put in grass, ground foam, some trees, painted the backdrop, my poor attempt at artistry there, and got the buildings in place. The track is all ballasted and ready for operations. And here's a look at the other end of the table where the tunnel comes in from Saratoga. They got the City Hall, a little park going on with a concert going on the bandstand, and we're getting pretty close to finishing up. There is no such thing as finishing a model railroad. There's always something else to do, but as far as this section for now, we're going to call it a day. Alright, in the next video we're going to move on around to Warrensburg, which was an area I never really did get completed, so it shouldn't take us as long to move through that, and hopefully we can get from there to North Creek a little quicker. I will let you know that all of these scenes and techniques I'm demonstrating here, I'm going to go through and create dioramas so that you can see step by step how these are accomplished with the trees and the ground foam and the grass and everything. So fear not, we'll get around to details on all of those techniques. Until then, I'll see you next time in Warrensburg.